doing well. As I mentioned in my last video, I don't have a whole lot of time these days to produce videos. I'm going to try this format again. This is just doing a quick live, and I wasn't planning on making a video this morning, but I've been solving some stuff and thought I might as well document the journey here. So, number one, I'm a big Yaesu fan, always have been, and I'm a fan of the Yaesu radios going back to kind of the older days. So the FT-817, its successor, the 818, and then later on the larger all-band, all-mode FT-857, then the 57D, and then ultimately the very big brother, the 897D. And I've been running those videos or those radios now for the last few years. And I just don't think Yaesu or the other manufacturers are coming to the market with small footprint, man-packable, all-in-one, shack-in-the-box radios. I know the argument could be made that you're better served by having two radios, but personally, I do like having radios that are all mode, all band. So for example, the 818, the 857, the 897D, and what we're going to talk about today, the 991A, are all band, all mode radios, which means I can use them on VHF, UHF, 6 meters, and HF, and use them in all of the different modes. I'm a big proponent of using single sideband on VHF and UHF because I have seen, at least out here in Arizona, tremendous power. And guys, for the people that just joined, like I said, this was an ad hoc video. I just wanted to share some ideas without having any video production away. And yeah, I can't read the comments, but my wife had me shave my beard yesterday. But it's coming back, so just give me a few weeks and we'll have the big beard again. But so what I want to talk about today is kind of the direction of where I think the industry is going, at least the Japanese market, because I feel like the Chinese are eating the Japanese in terms of innovation, and I still can't quite get on board with the Chinese radios. So yesterday, we had a local hamfest out in Mesa, Arizona, the Superstition Superfest, and I've accumulated a ton of gear. In fact, I have gear that I purchased specifically for this channel, like the iLuence HD2. I had the best intentions of taking it out, but I never had the time to even unbox it or even remove the shrink wrapping on it. So I thought, you know what? I don't want this to get in the way with the software projects I'm working on. I'm just going to sell, even though it's unopened, sealed, my iLuence HD2. Sold a bunch of old Panasonics that were actually non-functioning, and those sold pretty well. But the big thing I wanted to sell was my Yaesu FT-897D. That was the big brother that used to sit right here. And I liked it because it shared compatibility with the 818, which I have and have no intention of getting rid of, and the larger 857. But it was showing its age, and the radio that I wanted for a while was the Yaesu FT-991A, and I didn't want it for a whole bunch of reasons. I've been on the fence for almost 3 years. Number one, I'm not a fan of touchscreens, but then I thought about it. You know what? This is not going to be a field radio for me, so I don't have the issue of the screens not working when I'm out there running and climbing and have sweat all over the place. So kind of put that one aside and said, okay, I could forgive that one. But this is an all-band, all-mode rig, so it does everything I need, a shack in the box. But the price point has always been prohibitive. I think at HRO, the price is about $13.50. They had an instant rebate for $12.50. So my express goal for going to that Hamfest yesterday was to raise about $1,300, and I literally raised $1,300 by selling, again, a bunch of gear that I had bought for this channel but never had the opportunity to put together or put to use, and then also selling that 897D. So it wasn't quite free, but it was a guiltless thing. And again, this radio is not for everybody. I don't even know if it's for me, but it's something that I've wanted. And every year I thought Yaesu was going to come to the table with like an 857 replacement. I have no indication of that happening. I don't know how long I'm going to have to wait. I do have or have had a reservation now for the new FTX 1F. And we'll see where that goes. I don't know if that's going to ever replace my 818s, but it's worthwhile. But the reason why I'm doing this video also is this radio is brand new to me. And if you guys are new, the very first thing I do when I get a new radio is I don't even read the manual anymore. although I will read that end to end probably several times to understand the capabilities. I've got a set of tools down here. Actually, did I move them? They typically give you bare wire for the power connector, and it uses, I think, the 4 or 6 Mullix connector on the back end. And so I had to crimp my own Anderson power poles, and this is one thing that I invested on very early on. I'm happy I did it. So I've got like a little Harbor Freight kit here that I put together. I think I've showed it years ago, but if you're a new ham, highly recommend a good pair of wire cutters. These are from Klein. I got them at, I think, Home Depot. I actually have a much nicer wire stripper. These things are absolutely amazing. They do a perfect cut every time. You're never going to fray any of the wires. And yeah, guys, I have a mad case of ADHD, so we're going to go all over the place, but we are going to go back and talk about this radio. So getting back to first steps, the Anderson Power Pole Crimper, I got to tell you, these things, I don't know what I paid for, but I bought this 4.5 years ago when I first got into amateur radio, and I can't tell you how many times I have used this. And then if you're looking for the actual Anderson Power Pole connectors, I absolutely recommend the PowerWorks connectors and the housings. The ones on Amazon really did do me a disservice years ago. They are expensive. For this particular one, I used the 45 amp connector and had it connected to my distribution block pretty quickly. So once I had it powered up, it was just a matter of, now that I have had a permanent shack for a while, connecting both the VHF, UHF antenna and also the HF antenna. And my first thing, or my first goal for this, is to add support for the 991A for digital mode operation. It's absolutely my favorite thing. I still do a lot of VHF voice, a lot of HF voice, but I really like digital. And with the direction of the channel, or my time over the next 13 months being more software focused, I wanted to sit down and add support for MCOM tools. And this is what I want to talk about. The amount of effort and the amount of experience that I had to accumulate in order to program this radio without the manual and without the internet is really mind-blowing. I thought the 991A would have less settings, but in typical Yaesu fashion, especially with the like 891, which I really don't care for, but do have, the menu system is ridiculously deep. It's over 100 elements. So I sat down and went through every menu item one at a time. And for the members, or if you guys want to take a screenshot, these are the settings just based on prior experience with other Yaesu radios, mostly the 857 and the 891. And let me just walk you through what I had to do. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is I feel that for someone who has, it'll be 5 years of total experience May of next year, there are over a dozen settings, and I got them right on the first try, but let's take a look at these. So menu 31 is the cat rate, and they have it set to 4,800 bits per second. Personally, I max out the communication baud rate on all of my radios, so I went to 38,400. And guys, if you're a Buy Me Coffee member, there will be a field card and there will be a digital version also included in the R4 release of MCOM tools. So menu 32 is the cat timeout, and I like to control my rigs with cat control, and they have it at 10 milliseconds, which is too fast in my opinion, so I set all mine to 100 milliseconds. The data mode is menu item 62, and that's set to PSK. I set it to others. This is very similar to the 891. I use a mode called JSA Call, and JSA Call is really nice because in general, the normal mode uses only 50 hertz of bandwidth, and we run nets where we use a single frequency and can stack all the way from the left portion of that frequency all the way to the top end. We can stack a bunch of 50 hertz signals, so we can have lots of operators share one frequency. The problem with some of these radios, when you put them into the actual digital mode, they cut off the ends, and I get why they do this, is to prevent interference from a nearby frequency just below or just above. And the default is for the left cutoff is number 66, and it's set to 300 hertz. I just turn it off completely so that I don't lose any of the data for those stations that have their offset starting at 0, 50, 150, 100 all the way up to 300 hertz. Now there's a corresponding one called the high cut or H cut that is menu item 68, and they have it set to 3000 hertz or 3 kilohertz. I also turn that off. I don't want the upper edge being cut off either. There's some other options here that I put in because they are related to data, but they're a good default. So menu item 7070 is the data in select. I keep it at rear. Menu 71 is the data PTT select. So it's how do you trigger the PTT. And DAKY is the default and the value that I'm keeping with. They have a couple of ports on the back. Again, I haven't done a whole lot of research. In fact, I have not watched one video on the 991A, have not read the manual. This was just going into a cold. The data port select on the back is set to data, or was set to data, and I set to USB. I'm using a old school USB-A cable with ferrite beads to plug into this Panasonic FCM1. And guys, if you're new, I can't see any of the comments. Like I said, I'm trying to do or share as much information, straight brain dump to you guys. And it's like a 8-point font with the camera being a few feet away from me. But I'll take a look at this after on the instant replay. But really, thank you for coming in. I'll take a sip. And again, what we're doing here is I want to share with you this Yaesu 991A. Started out why I bought it, but I want to walk through everything that's involved in getting basically a modern radio working for digital modes. And I think this is why people have such a hard time getting into and growing the hobby. All right, so 76, menu item 73, data output level. I always keep it at 50. The default seems to be fine. Never really had to adjust it. I do most of my adjustment on the audio levels using the, on Linux at least, the ALSA mixer tool. And then my MCOM Tools project sets it properly for you. And then there were some packet settings that I was not expecting, and I believe there were 4 of them. So 76 is FM packet PTT select. Again, just like the data one, I set that one to DAKY. Menu 77 is the packet port select. Again, that was defaulting to data. I set mine to USB since I'm using the USB cable. They do have a output for FM packet TX gain. That's menu 78. I kept it at 50. And then the FM packet mode, they have 1200 baud. I kept that one as a good one. So after adding power, after connecting the cables, I went through that menu system one at a one, wrote all of those down. And then I was really hoping next that when I plugged it in, I'd be able to use the hamlib library to figure out how to control the radio so that I can change the frequency. And the way that I do it is, number one, I don't like specifying devices, at least in Linux or COM ports in the Windows world. In my software project, MCOM Tools community, I have a very technical way of dumping all of the device information when something's plugged in, and then always setting all my radios to be on dev or /dev/ET, stands for MCOM Tools, -cat, CAT. And I do the same thing for audio and GPS. It's dev, ET, either cat, audio, or GPS. So it doesn't matter which radio I plug in, they always have the same interface. Now, what's interesting about this is this rig actually presents 2 USB devices. One's called Dev TTY USB 1 and 2. So I dumped all that information, looked at the vendor IDs, and I'm going to use this to write the driver for my MCOM Tools program. So we'll have plug and play. So again, for those of you guys who are following along with that project, I wasn't planning on adding more radio support, but this came at a good time with me selling stuff and getting this radio. So yeah, in the R4 release that's coming, there will be likely full support for the 991A. I already figured out most of the stuff. So once I dump all that device information, I use the hamlib rig control library for all of my interfaces into radio. It makes things easy. All the big software packages from JSA Call, Direwolf, all of that stuff uses it, and it's a really nice way of configuring one system to do it. I don't use the one that's, I don't use FL Rig because I don't like having a user interface. I like having something that runs behind the scenes. So for rig control, or hamlib has this thing called the rig control daemon and the rig control command. And that's actually what I have on the screen here. And for this particular radio, what I did was I wanted to find the ID number for the 991A for Hamlib. So I just run rig, RIG, CTL space dash L. That'll list all of the rigs that the ham library supports. And it'll put, I don't have it on the screen, a little identifier or a model number. And what I'll do is I'll pipe that command into a utility in Linux called grep. It allows us to search and find a text match, and I'll just put grep 991, and the model ID number for that is 1035 or 1035, 1035. So you pass it the -m argument saying, hey, Hamlib, this radio's ID is specified by 1035. So that's the -m argument. Then you have to specify how you want to control the rig. And I always use the -p argument, and I'll use capital RIG for rig. So that'll allow me to key this up. And all of these settings I'm sharing with you are based on the settings that I configured on the radio. The next one is the device path, so -r. And for this rig, it's actually /dev/TTY USB1. Again, once I get to adding the driver support, that's going to be replaced with /dev ET-cat, really simple. And then -s is for the baud rate. And again, on the radio, I set that to 38,400. So I'm at the point now where, I don't know if it'll come on camera, but we're on the JSA call frequency. I've got rig control running with to test it out. And like I said, this worked first time out. I'm actually pretty impressed with all of this crazy nerd stuff. So let's say that I want to change it to 70. We'll do 87. We'll invert the numbers for JS8 and add 3 zeros. And if I hit enter, oh, I didn't change the frequency. Capital F. Let's try this one more time. Get the frequency, capital F for the frequency, 7087000. Boom, we're changed. So anyways, long story short, I think the complexity in amateur radio is too much in 2024. We're going into 2025. It shouldn't take someone who is a little bit of a knucklehead, has tried to learn everything about radio in about 5 years, has focused on digital, has to sit down and dump this entire contents of settings and get them all right, and then figure out a voodoo string of rig CTL space -m 1035 space -p space capital R capital I capital G space -r space /DEV/TTY capital U capital S capital B 1 space -s space 38400. If you guys want to know why new people are not coming into amateur radio, it's all of this nerd stuff. And, you know, I'm a big nerd, but it's got to be a whole lot easier. So this is why I'm focusing on things like the MCOM tools community. Again, it's all free. There will be some applications that I'm writing for the members later that build on top, but all of the basics of doing plug and play, all of that good stuff is all out there for the community. So just wanted to share that with you. And again, don't know anything about this rig. I'm not recommending it, but this 991A does all of the modes that I personally need it to do. Again, I like sideband voice on VHF. I like doing packet on 2 meters. I like being able to switch to HF and do all of the digital modes, WinLink over RDOP, WinLink over VARA. You know, JSA is my go-to these days. I'm still going to be using my 7200 for HF. That's a dedicated rig. But this one is going to kind of be the everything radio for me. Again, it will never go in the field. It's going to be a shack rig altogether. And again, since I was able to trade and sell a bunch of old junk that I had, and get this pretty much with $50 to spare and take the wife out to dinner, that's all I wanted to go over. All right, guys, like I said, if you came late, this was just wanted to share all of this information, didn't have the time to do a big video, didn't even have time to do the thumbnail, and just wanted to share this. So maybe we'll do another one with more advanced notice. Again, I've got stuff to get to. But yeah, I'm going to sit down here, and if you guys are following along on the community bleeding edge stuff, there is a branch for the nerds out there called release-/R4. And I would expect probably today or tomorrow there might be a plug and play support for the 991A supported. And this is actually what I did with the 705. I did all of the support blind. I never read the manual, didn't watch any YouTube videos, and kind of just got it working with digital without even knowing how to use the radio. And guys, that's one other thing I do differently. Again, I might have some of those settings wrong. When I go to evaluate a new radio or a new piece of software, I never watch anybody else's video. I rarely even go and read out there. And the reason for it is that my philosophy is I like figuring things out. I don't necessarily want to reinvent the wheel, but I want to experience things for the first time. And I want to experience pain for the first time myself so I can appreciate what goes into it. And I actually like having a low level understanding. So, again, my apologies if I've got any of those details wrong. I know this is probably the wrong format to capture it. Again, it will be formally captured in the form of code and configuration that gets committed to the community project. But again, just sharing with you my philosophy. And again, if you're joining late, my wife asked me to shave my beard yesterday. So it's coming back. So just a little light on the beard or the facial hair for a bit. But with that said, I'll read all of the comments when the instant replay comes back. This was just really easy for me to have a cup of coffee and share what I'm working on. All right, guys, I'm the Tech Prepper. Be strong, be safe, and be prepared. Now, how the hell do we turn this thing off? Boom. Yeah, there we go. Let's kill that.